Hi, y'all. How are you doing? I'm great. Thank you so much for asking. It's me, Kim, and I'm back for another live video. People have been asking me to talk about Harriet. I don't care enough to sit down and record. I'm just going to be honest with you. I wasn't moved enough by the movie to sit down and script out a video, but I do have some thoughts, and there's certainly things we can talk about. But we have some church announcements first of all. We have new merch, so I decided that I'm going to be releasing one new merch design every month, and that gives me an opportunity to work with a cool, creative of color to come up with the design, and then I don't know, people do better when you give them fewer choices. So this month's merch design is this shirt. It's me. It's me. I have to be careful because I'm not wearing pants. And it says, I'm great. Thank you so much for asking. That's me. There's all sorts of merch. This is the mug. It's at shopforharriet.com. So that's November's design. All sorts of stuff. There's stickers and a tote bag and t-shirts and sweatshirts and mugs. So shout out to y'all. Thanks for the support. Love you so much. It's definitely weird having merch with my face on it. It's weird as fuck. But here we are. So yeah, that's at shopforharriet.com. Next thing is I'm still soliciting submissions for the newsletter. I decided instead of doing a theme that I'm going to open it up. So if you have a submission, send it to me at kimberly@forharriet.com. It can be about anything. You can send me a pitch or a fully written article. And that is still going to be $1 a word. What else do I have? I think that that's it as people are trickling in. Oh, and if you are a graphic designer or whatever, and you have an idea for a piece of merch, send me the idea and I'll pay you for it. That's how we're spreading the wealth over here. Okay, so Harriet. So I went to go see Harriet in the theater yesterday. Honestly, my lip gloss is popping. Okay, anyways. So let me just say, yes, I am going to record a video about slave play because somebody asked, will you ever talk about slave play? Last time I was in New York, I went to go see slave play. I'm going to record a video about slave play because I have a well thought out response that requires real camera and editing because I have thoughts about slave play. Many of them. Okay. But we're going to get through this. So I understand if you don't want to go see this movie because of Cynthia Erivo. Cynthia Erivo has been caught a few times saying things that are just not cool to say about Black Americans and ghetto culture and all of that. And neither she nor the director of Harriet, Casey Lemons, have done enough to adequately respond to people's concerns. So it's not just, so I just finished watching this sit down that she had with Oprah, and Oprah said the haters came out. And what do you say to people who say that a British woman should not play Harriet Tubman? Now, I've talked before, I think in the video, about She's Gotta Have It, the She's Gotta Have It series. I think that there are some legitimate concerns to be had about the fact that so often we tap into the Black British cohort of actors to represent Black American icons. I think we can feel a way about that, especially when we have directors saying things like, "Oh, they're just better trained," or what. And it's like, no, don't do that. That's legit. But the primary issue that people have with Cynthia Erivo playing Harriet Tubman is not just because she's British. It's because she's British and she has publicly expressed these kind of negative feelings, these negative emotions toward Black Americans. And so don't just make it like we are just hating on you out of nowhere, because that ain't it. That ain't it. And I think it's really disrespectful to the audience who have legitimate concerns when you try to reduce it to, oh, we're just xenophobic. I mean, some people are xenophobic, but I do not believe that that is the foundation of this. All she had to, and this is the thing, this is why people be making it worse. All you have to do is say, I don't believe that. I respect this culture. I respect your icons. I am lucky to be able to come into this space and to be able to translate this iconic woman's experience on screen. That's all you had to do. It makes it worse when you come out and try to gaslight us and try to redirect the conversation into something else. Don't do that. Where are your... Okay, so this is the other thing. I think that maybe she wanted to ignore it. She and Casey are ignoring it because they believe that it's going to go away. And I believe that that's some really bad PR advice, right? Like a publicist out there is saying, don't ignore it, don't acknowledge it because it's going to be a bigger thing. But it is becoming a bigger thing, and it's an ongoing thing because of their refusal to acknowledge it. And so this narrative about Cynthia Erivo don't fuck with Black Americans, so why is she playing Harriet Tubman? It's going to keep going on and on and on because they're trying to skirt the issue. Just address it. And the thing is, you know, people try to shit on social media, you know, on Twitter and whatever, but those people are influential. You know, people on social media can make or break the narrative about your movie. Ask Nate Parker. Ask Nate Parker what social media can do to your film. And so I just feel like it's unfortunate that we get the first filmic representation of Harriet Tubman's life, and it has to be overshadowed by all this other bullshit. It's not necessary. Okay, but I did see the movie, and I will say, I watched it, and Cynthia Erivo, oh yeah, somebody asked, these are braids. Okay, Cynthia Erivo is good. She's good in the film. She's a competent actress. The accent was fine. So that's what makes it even worse, that there's so much hubris in talking to the people who have concerns about her playing this. Okay, so there's a lot of chatter going on about this movie, and a lot of it comes from people who haven't seen the movie, and so hopefully I can dispel some of that chatter. Obviously this is going to be a spoiler alert, but it's a spoiler alert, but actually it's a legit spoiler alert because this movie is not, there's a lot of things that are just made up. So it is a spoiler alert because you can read, I've read 3 or 4 Harriet Tubman biographies. I'm a little bit obsessed with Harriet Tubman, obviously. That's how we get the name of this channel, and you know. And so there are a lot of things in this film that are just not real. Not real, just fake, just completely made up out of thin air. So this is a spoiler alert. Okay. So I will say that as soon as this movie began, I was reminded of why I'm just never going to be on the I don't want to see another slave movie train. I think that honest depictions of the brutality of slavery are important. I think they will, if we're going to talk about reparations, we need to talk about slavery. We need to keep talking about slavery. We need to keep depicting there are so many stories of enslaved people that have not been told. We haven't even scratched the surface. It's 2019 and we are just getting to a Harriet Tubman biopic, big screen biopic. There are just so many. So, and I think unfortunately that a lot of people feel like a weird shame about slavery. And like, as I was watching this, especially in the first 30 minutes, I just really felt like I'm a descendant of enslaved people on both sides of my family. I am not ashamed. I don't want to turn away from that. I want to see it because I'm really proud of the fact that I come from a people who endured that. That actually makes me feel so proud. It makes me feel disgusted by the Confederate savages who have the nerve to wave the fucking Confederate flag. Y'all should be ashamed. Okay, I'm not ashamed. I'm very proud. My people went through that, and so I get to be here doing this? No, y'all should be ashamed. Okay, that's how I felt. Okay. I think that, unfortunately, one of the concerns that we have about a representation of Harriet Tubman's life that is not necessarily accurate is that most people are not doing deep reading about the institution of slavery. Most people are not going to read multiple Harriet Tubman biographies. And so they will get their knowledge and their information from this film. And it's a little, ugh. So one thing I did like about the film is that an underdiscussed aspect of Harriet Tubman's life is that she suffered a traumatic brain injury as a teenager. And so she had a disability. Even when she was making those 13 trips to free people, she had a disability. And we're not exactly sure what it was. Some people have suggested it was epilepsy or narcolepsy. But it's important, right, that this was a Black disabled woman who was doing amazing shit. And in this movie, that disability is represented not as a hindrance. It's not represented as a burden. It's represented as a gift. I've seen both Casey Lemons and Cynthia Erivo describe Harriet Tubman as a superhero, and I don't know how I feel about that description, but certainly Harriet Tubman had stuff that most of us just don't have. Okay. And she had an ability, a know-how, a knack, but also maybe there was, Harriet Tubman was very, very religious, and she she discussed talking to God a lot, and being in constant communication with God. And I think a part of that does have to do with, it might have to do with that early head injury that allowed her like see things, like premonitions, like she was gifted. Another inciting incident is 3 of her sisters were sold down south and they were gone forever. They were never reconnected. That is accurately represented in the film. Oh, so Harriet Tubman was not born with the name Harriet. Her name was Araminta. So throughout the first half of the movie, we hear her, first third, we'll say, she's referred to as Minty. Her real name was Araminta. I like, let's get in that stuff. She was enslaved on a plantation in Maryland. She did, in fact, as portrayed in the movie, her husband was free. They hired an attorney because the great-grandfather of the man who owned her, Harriet, wrote in his will that Harriet's mother was supposed to be freed when she turned 45. Now, obviously, none of the grandkids, none of the successors, they didn't abide by that, you know. And so Harriet and her husband did try to do that. And of course, you know, she was like, this is represented in the film, but she showed the papers to the man who owned her, Edward Brodus, and he was like, you're a slave. Good luck with that. I like that was represented there's real things in the film, like she prays for her owner to die and then he dies. That's a real thing. And then I think what is made up is that in the film, she gets wind that she was going to be sold down south. So she decides to run away. I don't know if I've ever heard that. But anyways, that's when we get to the action part of the film. Harriet is married, but she decides that she's going to run away by herself. Her husband wants to come, but she doesn't want him to come because if he gets captured, then he's going to be re-enslaved. Oh, and her father was also free. Just she and her mother and the children were enslaved. Okay. So now we get to the action of the film, which is Harriet running away. And I guess my critique of the film is they really wanted this to feel like an action movie. You can just feel it in the pacing of the film and in the score in the background and some of the shots. It ain't gonna be an action movie, you know? I almost feel like, I bet that Casey Lemons, who is the director who also directed Eve's Bayou and another film named Black Nativity. Eve's Bayou is the shit, by the way. I bet that they pitched this movie to studios saying, it's the Black woman superhero that and it's like, like I don't want a superhero movie like this. I didn't like that. But there were many moments of true suspense. When she gets away, she jumps into a river. Sorry, spoiler, a fucking alert. Sorry. But there are real moments of tense and what's going to happen next and how is she going to get away. Yeah, I just didn't, this is not a fucking Marvel movie. Don't do that. Um, so then we get Harriet journeying on the Underground Railroad. Definitely tense. Actually, this is just a real aside. So I went to school in Boston, which was like a stop on the Underground Railroad. And for one of my classes, we went to a house that was a stop, and there was like a students had the opportunity to go into like a crawl space. So basically, it was on the second floor. You lift up one of the boards on the floor, and it was a crawl space where enslaved people would go to hide. I'm a very small person. I'm 5 feet tall. And I have a very small frame. And I got into the little crawl. It was so small. I was so cramped. It is mind blowing to think about what people endured to be free. It is crazy. Um, but yeah, we got a really good feel for that. One thing that I did like about this movie is that we got so many Black experiences represented. We had enslaved people represented. We had free Black people in the South and in the North represented. We had people who maybe weren't going to try to get to freedom, but were willing to help enslaved people. And then we also had, and this is like the big, the controversy of Black slave catchers. Now, I've read a couple of things about this. Black slave catchers did exist. They just were pretty rare. So there was the insertion of fictionalized Black slave catchers in this narrative. But I did like the idea of like Black people are not one thing. I loved when Harriet finally made it to Philadelphia. I loved William Still, played by Leslie Odom Jr., aka Aaron Burser. Loved him. He was a real person. They made up Janelle Monáe's character, which I loved, but that's just made up. So I like the juxtaposition of these Black people who have known dignity their whole lives. They've been free their whole lives, and Janelle Monáe was just looking beautiful, like a beautiful Janelle Monáe, and those period costumes, and she just looks so beautiful. Obviously, it didn't end up well for her, but I liked that. I also like the idea of just connecting this to like a contemporary issue, the idea of like a mixed status family. So Harriet was married to a free man, her father was free, but in a family, like some people are free, some people are not, and having to navigate the difficulties that poses. I liked that. The thing that I loved about Marie and Harriet was I loved to see tenderness represented between Black women. So Marie Buchanan, fake character, completely fictionalized. I don't know if that was the best choice, but it did give us an opportunity to see Harriet, who is so strong and defiant and willful, being cared for intimately by Marie, and we see Marie drawing a bath for her, and we see Marie brushing her hair, and we see Marie being a confidant for Harriet. For Harriet, right? One thing that I did enjoy about the film is Harriet is not just portrayed as like a warrior. Like, this is a really complicated human being. And we get to see different emotions, right? So sometimes she's like, I'm gonna do whatever, and sometimes she's sassy and whatever. But then we get a scene which is out of chronological order, but we get the scene where she goes back to Maryland to get her husband and bring him back to Philadelphia so that they can live free together because she's lonely, she says. And then he tells her, oh, I thought you weren't coming back. It's literally been like a year, but okay, dude. He says, I thought you weren't coming back. And by the time she comes back to Maryland to get him, not only is he already remarried, his wife is already pregnant. That's real. That's a real thing. Okay. I also like, the leadership that she displayed. So real things from Harriet Tubman's life is like, initially, when she left, her two brothers were supposed to go with her. This is not represented in the movie. It's out of order. But they turned back. So I like that. Oh, you know who I love? Vanessa Bell Calloway. I didn't love this movie, but one thing I love about this movie is it gave black actors that I like jobs. I love Vanessa Bell Calloway. She is still so gorgeous. I love Leslie Odom Jr., love Janelle Monáe, love the black man from Queen Sugar. Yes, paychecks. I appreciate that. Okay, so all in all, Harriet Tubman made 13 trips back and forth. We get that she frees 70 people. She was a badass with a pistol. Okay, an important thing, one of the reasons why it's important for a story like Harriet Tubman's to be displayed is, for some reason, because people don't read or they don't know better, but this idea that like slavery was a choice is like taking root. This idea that, okay, people are asking me things, but I have to go. So I'm just going to say this and then we'll go back to the questions. I like this movie for representing the idea that black people, enslaved people resisted. They resisted a lot. There are so many slave revolts and so many stories of enslaved people running away and or like killing themselves, or it's like the idea that every single person who was enslaved just like took it is so wrong, and it's so historically inaccurate, and it's so offensive. And even people who themselves said that they weren't going to risk it to try to go north. Enslaved people who escaped would not have been able to do it without enslaved people who didn't want to escape, or free people. All sorts of black people during enslavement were putting their lives and their safety on the line to help other black people get to slavery. I like that is accurately depicted in this film. People, there's there's a preacher in this film who is instrumental, who is a real person, Samuel, I can't remember his real name. But like, do you know that man was risking all the time being tortured, being murdered because you wanted to help enslaved people get free? That's a big deal. That's a kind of bravery and courage that we need to be celebrating. Don't downplay that shit. It makes me so mad. Okay, get to the question. Oh, thank you, Trent. Darren says, just curious why this wasn't boycotted like Birth of a Nation. It was a non-historically accurate black male villain and white savior. I'm going to get to this, but the black man is not the villain. And I do not agree with the narrative that people are trying to say that this movie has a white savior. I disagree. But also, I believe that Nate Parker sexually assaulted someone when he was in college. I have not heard the same about Cynthia Erivo or Casey Lemons. So that's that for me. It's just materially different for me. Okay, well, let's get to the controversial part. So inserted into this film is there are black slave catchers. One is named Bigger Long, which, why'd you have to name him that? Casey Lemons and I think a man named Greg Howard wrote the script. Why did you name him that? Why did you do that? It really is annoying to me. And maybe they were trying to allude to Bigger Thomas from Native Son. I don't know why, but god damn it, that's so stupid of them. So the black slave catcher is invested in hunting Harriet Tubman because she's getting all of these people free. Oh, did I mention that another thing that they got wrong in the film is Harriet Tubman didn't change her name after she got free. She changed her name after she was married. Why just make that up? Okay, anyways. So the thing that people have an issue with is the black man being inserted into this story. I mean, I guess there were liberties taken with that, but I guess I would have a bigger problem with that if there weren't a wide variety of black people and black male characters in this film. But at no point is it the black male slave catcher is aiding Harriet Tubman's owner. One is not good and the other is bad. Harriet Tubman's owner, Gideon, who is also completely made up, does not point, is not a savior. He is bad. He is bad. What happens is the slave catcher and Gideon finally catch up with Harriet Tubman, and Harriet, I don't can't remember if she shoots Bigger Long or whatever. There's like a little scuffle, and he gets mad, and Bigger Long is going to shoot Harriet, and Gideon shoots Bigger Long. So the white male slave owner shoots the black male slave catcher. And people don't like that because he ends up saving Harriet's life. I do not interpret that as the white male slave owner being the savior. Because in my mind, he's not saving Harriet's life so she can go off and live free. He is protecting his investment. He's protecting his property. I guess in my mind, Gideon needs Harriet because she is still of childbearing age. She could be very profitable for him. They are in financial disarray. That's like one of the big things, and they're worried. They want to sell off the slaves because they need the money. So in my mind, I didn't see Gideon, the slave owner, as saving her life. He wants to enslave her. He wants to make money off of her. He wants to make sure that she can continue to be raped and abused. I did not view that as him being a savior. It was very clear to me, in my mind, it was clear that he was the villain and always the villain. Now, can you say, why even insert a black man? Why even insert a slave catcher when they were so rare and that is not a part of Harriet's real story? Sure, legit. But the idea that he's a savior because he wants to protect his investment, which is what often happened in enslavement. One of the reasons why, if you read histories about slavery, one of the reasons why there are so many forms of torture that were developed to use on the enslaved is because slave owners weren't just trying to willy-nilly kill enslaved people. Now, they would torture you. They would make sure that you knew that you fucked up. But people weren't just getting killed because enslaved people were so valuable. And even if the people you enslaved were insured, often the value of that insurance that was paid out upon their death was not worth the full value of the enslaved person. Often it was like half or 3/4. So I'm sorry, but I did not see him as being a savior. Now, another concern people had was when Harriet has the chance, she shoots Gideon, but she doesn't kill him. Now, I do remember sitting there and being like, oh, maybe you should kill him. But I also don't ever remember making Harriet Tubman out to be a killer. Does not comport with her actual biography, but there's a lot of stuff that does not follow her actual biography here. But she got away to freedom. He wasn't a savior. He was still very clearly the villain. Now, should he have died? Like I've said before, I'm not against revolutionary violence. But I don't agree. Okay. So because it demonizes black men, it clearly fits okay. Well, thank you for the money. Thank you, Darren. There are so many positive black men in this film, you guys. The preacher who risked his life and limb to help enslaved people escape. Harriet's father risked his freedom to help black people escape. William Still risked his freedom. Walter, the former slave catcher. There are many positive black male figures in this film. Okay, I appreciate you so much. I'm glad that you exist and that you do what you do. I hope to collab on some merch one day. Send me an email, Sai. Okay, how can you believe he did it when an all-right jury said otherwise? Do you know something they don't? I believe that I believe victims. I don't believe that being exonerated means that you didn't do a crime. I just don't. I don't believe that that's how our, especially when it comes to sexual assault, I don't believe that that's how it works. So, you know, made a whole video about this. Go back and watch it. So yeah, that's that. Let me just say that biopics are bad. I didn't think this movie was great. I think that this is a starter biopic. I hope that, I mean, I've seen so many biopics about JFK. I've seen so many biopics about FDR. So many Margaret Thatcher biopics, right? So I hope that this is not the first and last Harriet Tubman biopic. It's a start. It's a start. I think biopics generally suck because they have to do so much teaching. So you don't even really get an opportunity to really tell a story or let a character grow and develop because you're trying to teach us. And there was just a lot stuffed in. And because they were trying to stuff in so much into this movie that was 2 hours and 5 minutes, I feel like they felt, the screenwriters, Greg Howard and Casey Lemons, they felt the need to like make composites because they were trying to get the ideas translated and not necessarily the exact story. Oh, and somebody said there's multiple Obama movies. Exactly. So like, let's just hope that this idea, that this movie that just, they made up stuff that they didn't really need to make it up. That this is like, in a couple years, we'll get another Harriet Tubman biopic or whatever. Or, I don't know. It was okay. It was an okay movie. I will say that, and another thing I wanted to say about the Bigger Long Gideon thing is, so Gideon is Harriet Tubman's owner, and he kills Bigger Long, the slave catcher, because Bigger Long is going to kill Harriet. And, before I saw the chatter about this on social media, my initial thought in the theaters was, oh, what a good representation for why Black people should not sign up to aid white supremacy. That's literally what I was thinking in the theater before I saw all this other stuff trying to say that he was a savior. No. Gideon is not the savior. And Bigger Long is not no damn victim. Bigger Long signed up to aid and abet white supremacy to enslave other Black folks. And then he ended up getting killed. What a great metaphor for how white supremacy cannibalizes tokens. That's what I got from it. Now, I know a lot of people didn't get that, but I got, don't sign up to help white folks, because they will gladly, in a second, throw you under the bus, contribute to your physical death, your social death, because as soon as you're no longer useful to them, they gonna kill you. That's what I got from it. So this conversation about the savior, I'm like, I didn't get it. When I was in the theater, that's not what I got from it. All right, let's answer some more questions. Thank you for your work. Thank you, Kelly. Oh, really appreciate your commentary. Looking forward to more content. Thank you, Major Fab Lady. No, Bigger Long is not a real person. There's lots of fabrications in this film. Okay, so I'm going to say that I'm not opposed to making up stuff in films. I'm not, right? So if we, in biopics, right? Because, and I can think of so many biopics where things were just wrong. Even in that Queen movie that won those awards, stuff was wrong. In the new Elton John movie, stuff was wrong. In the Malcolm X movie that we all love from Spike Lee, stuff was wrong. In those JFK movies, in Betty and Coretta, in Selma, right? So if we are to say that a filmmaker has to be 100% accurate in the representations of a subject's life in a biopic, then we would be holding Casey Lemons to a standard that literally nobody else in Hollywood has ever been asked to be held to. Nobody is ever held to that standard. However, we can question some of the choices that were made, right? So it's not necessarily that you weren't 100% faithful to what happened. Oh, and also Roots. Also, Alex Haley, Roots, Queen. Alex Haley was just making shit up. Okay, but anyways, we can question the choices that were made. I don't know. I just even some of the timeline choices, right? So even where they put the implementation of the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. The Fugitive Slave Act was enacted very soon after Harriet escaped to the North. Why wait and put that later in the film? I don't know. It just seems like, I don't know. There were some shortcuts, it felt like, in the storytelling. And so the movie was okay. It was okay. I left the movie and said to the person I was with, like, that's a movie they're going to show. You remember how in school, when like your teacher was sick, you had a substitute, and they would just put on like a historical movie? Harriet is going to be like the historical movie that they're just going to put on, when the teacher is out. Or during the slavery section of social studies, that's going to be the movie that they put on. It was an okay movie. It wasn't a great movie. I don't know. I'm glad that they could bring it to the screen. I just wish that some different choices were made. Do I have any other notes? I will say I don't believe that Casey Lemons is a coon. I just think that she just made some bad choices. Like I said, East Bayou is my shit. She gonna be able to float on East Bayou for a minute for me. Not an A+. Definitely, there should not be any Oscar talk. No Oscar talk necessary. It's a B. B-. There's not a white savior in this movie. I just disagree. Okay. Okay. If Cynthia hadn't said what she said about Black Americans, I still think folk would take issue with her playing the role. I'm interested in why. What can an American actress bring that she can't? I think the thing is, I think Black Americans often feel like, oh, I'm talking and my hand is in front of the camera, Kim. I think Black Americans often feel like we are overlooked in favor of a more desirable kind of Blackness, a more exotic Blackness, a more palatable Blackness. And so that comes into play when we're talking about who gets an opportunity to play Black American icons. And when we've seen, there have been so many movies about iconic Black American figures that have been played by people who are not Black American. And Black American people, for good reason, are protective of our history, protective of our culture. But I've seen other people say, well, in the interview that I saw with Oprah said, well, Daniel Day-Lewis, who is not American, played Lincoln. And Meryl Streep, who is American, played Margaret Thatcher. I mean, sure, it's not an uncommon thing in Hollywood. I mean, I love the show Succession. I found out that Shiv Roy is Australian in real life. There's just a certain, we are protective of our shit. But we're protective of our shit for a reason, because people be trying to take our shit and erase us from it. Okay. Finally caught alive, and you look gorgeous. Thank you so much. Oh, I keep touching this like I don't have this in my hand. Kimberly, let's be smarter. Okay, it's time to answer some questions. Okay. Do you see how an uneducated person would see the ending as a white savior saving Harriet? I have listened to the arguments. I get it. I think we just disagree. We just disagree. And I'm not even saying that anybody who sees that as a white savior is uneducated. I'm saying that from my vantage point and my knowledge of history, I did not see it as a savior. Okay. May Tibbs says, do you like Johnny Depp or his films? I liked Edward Scissorhands. I can't even think of any other Johnny Depp films. Thanks, Brandy. If it's not an ADOS playing their ancestors' life story, I'm not supporting, especially if that person talks negative. Okay. Okay. The narrative is that Black Brits have more depth, but that is not true. Lies. Yeah, I do think, unfortunately, that is often the narrative, that they are better trained, that they have, that they're more capable of accessing these, complex emotions and dealing with these complex characters. And that's just not true. And it's offensive. I wanted to connect with Harriet's struggles throughout the journey. It felt like a Lifetime movie. I would say it's a step up from a Lifetime movie, but not 2 steps up. And that's unfortunate. Why did you get an African American Studies degree? So I could sit down and be knowledgeable as fuck and make videos like this. That's why I got an African American Studies degree. I do not regret it one bit. I had the best time in college until I failed out. There's a whole movie about that. But then I went back and got my degree. And I use my degree a lot. A lot. This is what I do. Oh, you know what I forgot to mention? I did pick the first recipient of the grant. So shout out to Naya Hardaway. She's super dope. So a lot of people have asked how they can contribute to the $250 that I have pledged to give to a Black woman in college every month. So we're going to set up a fundraising page for Naya. And if you have $5 you want to give to her, if you have $10 or whatever, awesome. She's super dope. I went through all of the cover letters, went through all of the transcripts. I like the work that she's doing. She wants to be a doula. She is taking a year off before grad school to do some doula work. I love that. I'm into her. So tomorrow, hopefully, that'll be posted. Okay. On the community page. Love your work and thank you for your contributions to the conversation. My question is, have you ever seen a woman called Moses with Cicely Tyson? I really enjoyed it. Cicely Tyson is the GOAT. Yes, I have. I thought it was really great. But what's unfortunate is A Woman Called Moses, that's like 45 years old. And that was a TV movie. With Depp having been accused of physical abuse of women, I'm just curious if you also boycott all his movies. Like I said, the only Johnny Depp movie that I can even think of is Edward Scissorhands, which came out before I was born. But shout out to you for trying to catch me in hypocrisy. It didn't catch me, bitch. Okay. Hollywood is white. White is the default. White means normal and human. But when it comes to Black folks across the diaspora, they don't see us as being different with different historical backgrounds. That's really true. Adore your channel. In celebration of the 30th anniversary of Rhythm Nation, will you make a video about the legacy impact of Janet Jackson? Oh, that's a good idea. Oh, I like that. Yeah, and actually, I went to see Janet in at the end of August in Vegas. Oh, yeah, that's a really good idea. I hear your point, but what about Black Americans playing non-Black American icons? Okay, here's the thing. If you have a problem with a Black American playing a non-Black American icon, I think that the people in that community have every right to say, why? Why is this happening? I don't have a problem with y'all. I mean, I really don't. I'm not answering my thoughts on the ADOS movement, but I will say I definitely support reparations 100%. Do you plan on signing up for Disney Plus? No. Oh, Viola Davis would be good in a Harriet Tubman movie. Even though one thing I did like about this version of Harriet is that we saw Harriet Tubman as a younger woman. So Harriet Tubman was doing all of this work when she was in her 20s and 30s. I think that's important. So because of the way that technology progressed, a lot of the visual representations that we have of Harriet Tubman is only her as an older woman. So I like that we saw Harriet as vibrant and like with her husband and desiring love, and I like that. The people who did the New Edition biopic should have made Harriet's movie. That's funny to me, but it's yeah, that's true. Is there any chance to reapply for the scholarship next month if we weren't chosen? Sure. Um, what other kinds of stories do you think ought to be told in slavery movies? I think that we have not had a slave. So one thing that's being explored more and more in scholarship is about the romantic and sexual lives of enslaved people. I think and I'm going to talk about this in my slave play review. I think it makes us uncomfortable to think about enslaved people, like the intimacy of, but like they were human beings with like sexual desires, and gay people didn't just like prop up in the 1940s, right? And so there are just so many of love and sex and desire and like queer enslaved people and more slave revolts and running away and the culture, like our cultural practices from it. I just think there's just so much. And we keep getting the same kinds of movies about enslavement, which are about like men and that are only about white people beating us. But like, do I think that it is impossible for an enslaved person to experience joy? It wasn't. Oh, let me not do that again. Let me look on here. Um, I would rather see a movie about the history of Africans before slavery. Like, dang, we weren't just slaves. Well, I'm a descendant of enslaved people, and that's a really important part of my history and my narrative. And I have no problem seeing that. We weren't just slaves, but I don't think of slavery as being something that is nasty or shameful or debasing. I don't know. It's like a thing that happened and we were able to overcome it. I approach my desire for representation from just a fundamentally different place. Didn't catch me much. They should do a film on Marcus Garvey. I agree. How do I personally feel about Cynthia Erivo? I mean, I don't really have any feelings about her. I don't feel a way either way. Oh. just came on. Kim, you look so good. The color is everything. Oh my gosh, so many compliments today. um, do you have any thoughts on Doja Cat? I think Doja Cat is the shit. I think she's so good and so creative. Yes, she's problematic. Just add her to my list of problematic faves. But I think I love her. I really do. And the new video for Rules is good. I like Doja Cat. But you know, if you cancel Doja Cat for her homophobia, I get it. I get it. When is that Euphoria review coming? It's not on the docket. As I said in another video, it was too hard. It was too hard. Drop the skincare routine. That's not for this video. But I do have a lot of I do a lot of stuff to my skin. I do. Okay. Are there anything else? I would like to see movies with well-to-do black folks living during slave times. Yeah, I think more movies about like free black people, but also, you know what I think is so interesting? It's something that was kind of touched on in this movie was after the Fugitive Slave Act was passed in 1850, every black person was at risk. You're not safe just because you're technically free after the Fugitive Slave Act is passed. There is a little thing in there where Harriet she travels north to go back down south again to get more people, and you know there's the show your papers moment. But after the Fugitive Slave Act, it really don't matter if you're free or not. You could easily be captured and enslaved. Now, I think what happened in the 12 Years a Slave movie, I think that movie is set before the Fugitive Slave Act was passed. But like 12 Years a Slave, where Solomon Northup was free, and then he was enslaved. Because there is no safety, there's no protection in a country where slavery is legal if you're black. Okay. I didn't learn about Black Wall Street in school. It took a book for me to learn about it, but I am glad that HBO Watchmen show with Regina King showcased it. I am from Oklahoma, so I did learn about Black Wall Street, but yeah, more people should learn about Black Wall Street. I am glad that we finally have the opportunity for these stories to be told. You guys, seriously, the amount of terrorism, this video gonna be demonetized, that's fine. The number of the way that white supremacists terrorized black people historically in this country, it's insane. It is too much to even process. The number of ways that terror was enacted in black communities, from children to women. So yes, there are so many stories about that we just have not been told and not been exposed to. Why are black men revolutionaries demonized while black women revolutionaries exalted? How are black men revolutionaries demonized? People love Nat Turner, do they not? I've seen the movies that we have about enslavement are primarily about men, are they not? The movies that we have about the civil rights era are primarily about men, are they not? So the idea that black men revolutionaries are demonized just it doesn't hold up. Okay. I'm getting stuffy, so I'm gonna have to go. Any last questions? How many Popeyes chicken sandwiches are you getting today, Kim? Zero. I have the worst acid reflux to have ever refluxed. So I cannot eat greasy. I cannot eat spicy. I'm on a very bland diet right now. I am very sad that I will not be able to go to Popeyes today. I planned on it. I certainly did. But I would like to be able to sleep tonight. So I can't do it. Yeah, I'm doing the apple cider vinegar. I'm taking the Nexium. I'm gonna sleep on my left side. I just need some relief. But I'm not gonna chance it. I am not gonna chance it for a chicken sandwich, you guys. It can wait. I need to be able to get some relief. I think that's gonna be it for today. I did watch the first episode of The Watchmen. I love Regina King. I am worried that The Watchmen is going to be a Cop Lives Matter show. I did appreciate the very real and honest depiction of the Tulsa massacre. As an Oklahoman, I think that is under-discussed. Even in Oklahoma, it's under-discussed and not represented enough. But I'm probably not going to keep watching that show. So yeah, I think that's going to be it. So, to review, buy some merch. This is the first merch design at shopforharriet.com. Here's the mug. There's all types of shit. There's crew necks. There's, sweatshirts. There's stickers. If you don't want to sign up for Patreon, I get it, girl. I'm not begging you to do it. I appreciate all of the Patreon supporters. Thank you guys so much. Support. Be on the lookout for the fundraising page for the first For Harriet grant winner. Shout out to Naya Hardaway. Super dope woman. Let's come together as a community and help a Black woman through school every month. Send me your newsletter pitches or spec articles and essays. Kimberly at FORHARRIET.com. I appreciate you guys. Go to Popeyes, enjoy your chicken sandwiches, have one for me. I'm not buying your merch. Don't buy the merch if you don't want to buy the merch. You guys, it's really simple. It's really simple. I'm doing good. I'm okay. I'm just saying, if you want to support, if you are a priority given toward Black, but a person of color creative who has a good merch design, send me an email with your thoughts. But yeah, thank you guys so much for your support. I really, really appreciate it. Seriously. It's so crazy to me that I get to sit here and do this. Thank you. And thanks for the compliments. Bye. Oh, bye.